the big guns are out, and now they're going to blow each other up. Elon Musk and Vladimir Putin were never best friends. In fact, they were always in a sort of gray area. And it all started when Russia blew up one of Musk's satellites during a missile test. That's not a cool thing to do, right? I mean, I hate it when my satellites are shot out of the sky. Good joke. And now, with so much currently going on, both of these wild kitties are going claws out. They're both all the way in, and nobody's pulling any punches. I mean, for real, to put it another way, they're fighting like there's no tomorrow. And we all know with most fights, there's usually just one winner. Roscosmos is the Russian space agency. According to Dmitry Rogozin, Elon Musk's SpaceX Starlink space program may actually pose a security risk to Russia. The US government has already provided over $900 million to SpaceX for Starlink, with subsidies expected to total around $20 billion in the next budget. So that could leave one wondering why the US government requires this. Rogozin discussed this program because this type of space program can actually control cruise missiles, recalibrate their lying tasks in mid-flight, and also run an Asian network in addition to dispersing the network. Much of the world now has satellite internet connectivity thanks to SpaceX's Starlink satellite and their broadband system through an expanding network of private satellites floating above the Earth. Musk's initial program aims to provide internet access to almost everybody on the planet. The constellations will be formed by thousands of mass-produced small satellites connected with these specialized ground transit receivers in low Earth orbit. In 2022, SpaceX plans to launch up to 60 additional Falcon 9 rockets, with launches occurring every 2 weeks. In 2019, SpaceX launched its first 12,000 satellites into 3 orbital shelves 1,440 miles above sea level. The second shell will have 2 825V brand satellites orbiting at the height of 690 miles. And the third shell will have 7,500 phi-band of spacecraft flying at the altitude of 210 miles. For example, cruise missiles may travel thousands of kilometers, yet they need various guidance systems, including satellite course data. For example, the Russian 3M-54 cruise missile ranges about 930 miles and relies on satellite data communications and other equipment. According to Russian officials, the Starlink might be used to inject erroneous navigation data into a cruise missile in flight. Furthermore, in a conflict, satellites might be used as a backup for specialized military force. Several countries, including the US, Russia, China, and India, have anti-satellite weapons to destroy military satellites to counter emerging Western capabilities. Russia has made substantial investments in anti-satellite weapons, including the MiG-31 Foxhound fighters with anti-satellite missiles and the S-500 mobile missile systems. However, if there were many beginning satellites, these weapons would be rendered ineffective. Dmitry Rogozin further cautioned the Starlink internet broadcasts be simply political and most likely anti-Russian, and they could be used as a conduit for Western propaganda as well. The charges were leveled after Russian legislatures passed legislation prohibiting Starlink operations in the country by the end of 2021. Ensuring that all internet traffic in the country is handled by Russian telecommunications companies. In January of 2019, the United States Air Force Research Laboratory demonstrated a 610 megabit per second data link to the Beechcraft C-12 Huron aircraft during flight, proving that SpaceX and the United States military have already collaborated. In late 2019, the United States Air Force successfully tested a Starlink connection on an AC-130 gunship. In 2020, the United States Air Force used Starlink to support its advanced battlefield management systems during the live fire exercise. Several air and ground assets were linked to the starting system, including the Boeing KC-135 Stratotanker. Without a doubt, there's room for partnership here. A prominent Russian defense contractor believes that the United States Air Force's unmanned X-37B rocket is a stealth bomber capable of dropping nuclear bombs from orbit. While the X-37 and other aircraft based on similar technologies have been presented in the past, this time it comes from a credible source. Elon Musk's companies, including the Space Force, are capable of performing military operations in space. The U.S. military is now preparing to invest $48 million on Rocket Rate, a program that might allow heavy cargo to be sent around the world in less than an hour via space access. As a result, Russia and China are concerned that SpaceX's groundbreaking program, in particular, could be adapted and used for military purposes. Another piece of information that supports this viewpoint is the rapid expansion of the Beginning program, which was funded by the U.S. government. Only as people are growing used to the idea of how space companies would journey into space and to the surface of Mars to conduct research, it is clear that space companies want to investigate and explore virtually all of the planets in space, and not just the Moon and Mars. Currently, Russia is working on a new nuclear spacecraft capable of landing on Jupiter's surface. The journey from Earth to Mars takes at least 5 to 7 months, and by the time you get to Mars, your muscles have probably been battered by the tremendous exhaustion caused by weightlessness. So how long would it take a Russian astronaut to fly from Earth to Jupiter in the nuclear space race? The relationship between Russia and SpaceX, let's just say it, it's not good. The Russian State Duma, Russia's parliament, is drafting legislation that would levy fines on anybody who signs up for Starlink or any other foreign-operated satellite internet system, like OneWeb or Project Kuiper. According to ARS Technica, the Russian Duma might again fine individual Starlink consumers up to $405 and business users up to $13,500 for using that satellite internet service. What is Russia's objection to inexpensive, fast, dependable internet from space? Well, for one thing, Russian security services object to the fact that a foreign satellite network's internet would be exempt from surveillance under Russia's system of operational search measures legislation. And for another, they believe Starlink is part of a conspiracy by the US government to use, quote-unquote, predatory, cunning, powerful high-tech, shock and awe to advance, above all, military goals. However, the prohibition on Starlink and other satellite networks appears to have some financial backing, too. Or reasoning, rather. Russia is planning its satellite internet constellation called Sphere. Moreover, unlike any SpaceX Starlink, a privately funded and built communication system, the 600 satellite Sphere constellation will be created and managed by the Russian government through its Roscosmos space agency. That might be a problem. The Sphere, you see, is expected to cost $20 billion to develop, and it won't launch until 2024. And it won't be finished until 2030. Given the investment size, Russia's government does not want to fund the Sphere project, only to find out years later that the Sphere's potential customers have already signed up for Starlink, and that it would never recoup its investment. Sidebar, Starlink sounds way cooler than Sphere. Come on, get in the comments, agree with me. Moving on. It'll be a tragedy for Russia's rural internet users. I mean, after all, Russia is the ideal market for a low-cost Starlink-style internet system. Russia spans 11 of the world's 24 time zones and has the largest landmass of any country on the planet. Despite this, Russia's 146.7 million inhabitants don't even come close to occupying all that land. Despite significant urbanization in the country's western parts, 1 of every 4 Russians still lives in the countryside, making Russia more rural than the United States, where just 1 out of every 6 people lives outside of their cities. According to SpaceX CEO Elon Musk, Starlink's primary goal is going to be to serve the hardest and serve the client. This is why one of the first things Starlink did after launching was apply for a Federal Communications Commission-run program to fund the supply of broadband internet service to underserved rural areas across the United States. In Russia, SpaceX will no longer be able to serve these rural customers. That's fine, though. According to the World Economic Forum, only about 55% of the world's 7.8 billion people have an internet connection, suggesting that Starlink has roughly 3.35 billion potential customers outside of Russia. I think they're going to be okay. So to summarize all this, Elon Musk's only objective is to help humanity. And the only goal of SpaceX is to provide cheap internet service worldwide. They might not be able to do it because all of the conflicts that are going on in Russia, and now they've even helped Ukraine get internet service, and the not-so-good relations got even worse. Even Putin doesn't want the service to be available in Russia, as it would lead to a loss of their own project. So due to the actions of Elon Musk, there could be times when Russia will put a heavy fine on the service, but there could be another alternative solution too. But Starlink and Sphere can combine their forces to create a better internet service in Russia. Yeah, before you can all start laughing at my insane solution, I know I have a better chance of becoming the president of the USA than this happening, so do not worry. Also, with all the Twitter beef going on right now and all the valid points that I've stated earlier, Russia and Elon Musk are not going back to their good old pally-pal days. But wait a minute, was there any to begin with? Yeah, who am I talking to? Where are you? What is this? Is this a simulation? Later, guys.